BioWare released a full gameplay demo and tons of new details about their upcoming game Anthem in a recent Twitch stream. So to save you watching the whole thing, we've got a breakdown of everything that you need to know. One of the elements of the game that was heavily detailed in the stream was Strongholds. These are essentially dungeons, but the developers wanted a name that didn't make it sound like a small cave. Strongholds are quite the opposite. They're large and cavernous, and many contain outside areas. They are specifically designed for 4 players, and there will be matchmaking available. A typical Stronghold run will last around 35 to 45 minutes, but there are many different ways to approach them depending on your squad, and as you might expect, you'll be rewarded for doing them with rare loot. Speaking of the loot, another thing that was confirmed is that weapons and armour will have randomly rolled perks and stats, giving you something to work towards as you try to chase gear to create different builds and loadouts. Also, to keep the grind feeling fresh, the world has been designed to be dynamic, with a day and night cycle, world events, and changing weather, all of which will have an impact on the mechanics of the game. It was also confirmed that there will be 6 different tiers of loot, going from common and uncommon to legendary and masterworks. Any loot that you miss while out and about will also be recovered and then posted to you. Crafting will also be available. There are nodes where you can harvest plants while out in the environment, and you can also purchase some limited materials from vendors in Fort Tarsis, the main hub. However, these purchases can only be made with in-game currency. It was confirmed in the stream that there will be no real money loot boxes and no way to buy power. However, there will be cosmetic options available for purchase, with the possibility of some Titanfall or perhaps Dead Space skins in the future. There will also be things like emotes and ways to change animations, such as how you land when joining another player. BioWare is of course known for the romance in many of their previous games, but they have now confirmed that Anthem will not have romance options. They did say that there are still NPCs in the game who you will develop a relationship with over time, but nothing like their previous games. Most of the NPCs in the game will be found either on board your Strider or at Fort Tarsis. The fort is the central hub of the world. This is where most of the role-playing elements of the game are, as well as merchants. If you launch your Javelin from here, you'll start very high up and be able to get a long-distance flight. On the other hand, you have the Strider. This is like a forward base that you can use as a pit stop to change loadouts or check out your new loot, and you'll be able to launch your Strider already out in the environment. They did confirm that it's not drivable by the player, and currently it's not customizable, but perhaps in the future. The question of whether swords and cloaking will be in the game was raised, and while it wasn't exactly confirmed, it was heavily implied that the other types of Javelin will have these options.
Are there swords?
We're not talking
about
the Interceptor and Storm at the moment.
Read into that how
It could be anything.
Could be a broomstick, we don't know.
Dying in Anthem currently has very little penalty to it. You can be revived or have to respawn at a resupply point, but you won't lose any loot. However, this is something that's still being tested, so it might change in the future. When asked about the map scale, it was confirmed that 1 sub-region was shown in the demo video, and there are 10 of them in the game. But there is a lot of volume to these regions. It's not just a single plane to move across, but rather layers that go up and down. Crossplay between consoles or PC and console is not something they're planning on doing right now, but it's not off the table entirely. Anthem has been designed for multiplayer and built around the idea of working as a group. However, you can still play the story solo if you wish, and it's been confirmed that you can combo effects together by yourself depending on what your loadout is. It was also confirmed that there will be savable loadouts for your Javelin to make it easier to switch between builds. Another thing that was confirmed was that the damage shown in the gameplay demo was toned down. When the Colossus used his ultimate ability, it did much less damage than it would do normally, as you're essentially firing a nuke with that skill. You'll also be able to use your ultimates a lot more often than was shown in the demo. And if you don't like all the damage numbers floating up on the screen, these can either be disabled entirely or adjusted in size or opacity. Lastly, another question that was answered was whether you can remove the Javelin mech suit while out in the wilds, and the answer was essentially no.
Story reasons why you will be out of the Javelin, not in Fort Tarsis like in the Strider, but there's also some things that happen in story, but you can't just climb out of your Javelin because then a grabber will come and eat your leg.
Yeah.
Bah!
What are your thoughts on Anthem so far? High hopes, cautious optimism, or not that interested? Let me know in the comments below. As always, this is James for Curse, saying thanks for watching, and enjoy the game.